Hi, I'm David and I've been a Delivered Meals volunteer for, well, let's just say a number of years. Like you, I care about my clients, some of the most vulnerable people in our community. We not only provide a good meal, but we also check to see that our clients are okay. Hello, Mrs. Robinson, how are you?
Hello, David.
Nice
to see you.
And you. Here's your meal.
Thank you very much.
No fish,
Thanks
just
a lot.
like you ordered it.
Hi, I'm Greg. I'm the kitchen supervisor. My organisation is one of about 1,000 across Australia that prepares delivered meals. And who's the backbone of delivered meals? That's right, people like you and me, the volunteers and kitchen staff who prepare, pack and deliver thousands of meals each day. Now that's quite a responsibility, and for that reason, the Australian government has introduced laws called Food Safety Standards.
The standards apply to every delivered meal organisation in Australia, from the biggest city cook chill facilities, preparing thousands of meals a day, to the smallest community centres run by volunteers. Big or small, we've all got one thing in common, an interest in keeping our clients healthy and happy. Hi, I'm Janet. I'm a kitchen assistant, and I'll be seeing you soon.
Good morning.
Hi, Greg.
We're a pretty big operation here, but safe food handling practices can be carried out in any kitchen, regardless of its size or age. You can even carry them out at home.
Morning.
Oh, good morning. You know, David and Janet here have done the training to comply with the food safety standards and they survived.
That's right. The standards are nothing to get stressed about. They're straightforward and simple to follow.
And just good common sense.
So together, we'll take you step by step through the main points of the standards. Firstly, I'll show you how to make sure that the food coming into your kitchen is in top-notch condition. Let's go.
I'll give you the lowdown on hygiene, or how to beat the bugs. This will include the important topic of temperature control, or how to keep certain foods cold enough, or hot enough, and why we shouldn't let them hang around in the temperature danger zone.
And I'll take you through the safe way to serve, pack and transport food.
So, who should be interested in the National Food Safety Standards? Well, everyone who manages a kitchen.
Handles food.
Or delivers meals.
This also includes the CEO of the organisation and the meals coordinator. Under the standards, all food business operators must ensure that food handlers have the skills and knowledge to safely carry out their food handling activities. This video, along with a simple, easy-to-follow handbook, has been put together to help us do just that, handle food safely.
Did you know that in Australia there are over 5 million cases of food poisoning each year, and there's a food recall nearly every week? Now that's food for thought. When something gets into food that shouldn't be there, we say that the food has been contaminated. There are 3 main types of contamination: physical, chemical, and microbiological. Physical contamination includes insects, dirt, hair, bits of metal, glass or plastic, and jewellery. Chemical contamination is about insect spray and cleaning chemicals getting into food. Microbiological contamination is when bacteria from raw meat, raw vegetables, and ourselves get into food. Now that's what these standards are really all about, preventing food contamination, and it's not that hard. To protect food from physical contamination, wear protective clothing, keep insects out of the kitchen, wash your hands, and keep food covered.
Simple.
To protect food from chemical contamination, store chemicals well away from food and follow instructions carefully. Wash your hands and keep food covered.
Easy.
These are food poisoning bacteria. They may be small, but they can cause big problems, sometimes resulting in serious illness or even death. And elderly or ill people are especially at risk. We can't actually see the harmful bacteria getting into the food, but we do know a lot about them. We know that bacteria are everywhere. We know how they spread, how they multiply, and most importantly, how to control them. Here's one way of controlling bacteria. Clean up as you go. This keeps the work area nice and clean, and you'll have less to do at the end of the day. More about beating the bugs later, but first we better take care of this delivery.
Food safety in your kitchen starts right from the moment the food arrives. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Got everything on board?
Yep.
When receiving food from a supplier, make sure that it's properly labelled with an Australian address so that it can be traced back if the food is recalled. Also check the delivery to make sure it matches up with what's on the invoice before you accept it. And always check the condition the goods arrive in. You don't want damaged or substandard food in your kitchen. The sorts of things you should reject are frozen food that's not hard, cold food that's above 5 degrees Celsius, broken or damaged packaging, and dented or rusted tins. Here's a tip. Keep a record of any foods you've rejected on a delivery record form. This will show you if any supplier consistently delivers substandard goods. There's a template of the delivery record form in the handbook. Food that is unsafe in any way, for example, food that's been returned to us or recalled by the supplier, must be clearly labelled and separated from other food. You good, mate? Thanks very much.
Pleasure.
Good stuff, and we'll see you next week. Now that the food's in, you need to store it properly. In the dry store, make sure the stock is rotated properly by putting the new food to the back. First in, first out. If you transfer bags of food into food bins, label the container and transfer the date code. That way, if the food's recalled, you'll know which bin it's in. In the cool room, raw meats and raw vegetables should be stored well away from other ready-to-eat foods like salads and desserts. Don't want bacteria from raw meats and unwashed vegetables contaminating other foods.
Most bacteria aren't a problem unless their numbers get really large. That is, they multiply. And to do that, they need enough time, the right temperature and food, and moisture. Remember that. Time, temperature, food, and moisture. Some foods that have both protein and moisture, like meats, chicken, gravies, dairy foods and fish, are an ideal breeding ground for bacteria. That's why we call these potentially hazardous foods, and how we store them is especially important. Keep frozen food frozen. Keep cold food at or below 5 degrees Celsius. Keep hot food at or above 60 degrees Celsius. When food doesn't stay hot enough or cold enough, it falls into the temperature danger zone, the zone that bacteria love to multiply in. The aim is to keep food out of the danger zone as much as possible during storage, preparation, dishing out, packing and transport. Temperature is such a key part of keeping food safe that it's important to keep an eye on the temperature of fridges, cool rooms, blast chillers, freezers and food warmers. To check the temperature of the cool room or fridge, keep a container of water inside the cool room and check the temperature of the water inside the container. Can it be any simpler? Actually, it can. To check freezer temperature, just do this. To make sure it's frozen solid. Or you can check the temperature by putting a thermometer between two packages. You don't need to pierce the packages. Record your cool room and freezer temperatures. Signs of warming could mean that your equipment is failing and you'll need to do something about it, sooner rather than later. To check the temperature of potentially hazardous foods, gravies, dairy foods, fish, you must use an accurate probe thermometer. Before using the thermometer, wash it with warm water and detergent. Then sanitize it by wiping it with an alcohol swab or by putting it in boiling water for a few seconds. Allow the probe to air dry or use a paper towel. Don't use your apron or a tea towel. Insert the probe and wait for the temperature display to settle. Note the temperature. Remember, hot food must be above 60 degrees Celsius. Recording the food temperature on a chart will tell you how well your equipment is working. Wash, sanitise and dry the probe before checking other food items. Of course, food can't stay in the cool room or the food warmer forever, so Greg's got some good advice about food on the move.
When you're preparing, displaying, serving or transporting food, it's really important to control the time it spends in a temperature danger zone. Now remember, that's the zone between 5 and 60 degrees that bacteria love to multiply in. So, here's how to keep the food out of the temperature danger zone for as much as possible. First, don't take things out of the freezer, cool room or warmer until they're needed. And then only take out as much as will be used. This keeps the ingredients safe and it means you won't waste food. With frozen food, defrost only as much food as you'll need in a clean covered container. Food is best thawed in the cool room. Hot food should be stored in a bain-marie until you're ready to serve it. The bain-marie is only designed to keep cooked food hot, so always cook the food on the stove or in the oven before putting it in the hot bain-marie. Now it's important to cook raw meat thoroughly, especially rolled roasts, minced meats and formed fish and meat products. Steam. When slicing, always use a clean, sanitised chopping board or slicer. Also use different boards for raw and cooked meats. This will prevent bacteria from the raw meats contaminating other foods. It's been said before, but it's worth saying again.
Keep food covered and wash your hands.
You got it. We're a cook fresh facility, but many places are cook chill. That is, they cook the food one day, serve it out, and then blast chill the meals ready for delivery the next day. How's everything going? Potentially hazardous foods must get from 60 degrees Celsius to below 5 degrees in under 6 hours. However, the faster food is cooled, the longer its shelf life. That's why many places use blast chillers. Well, today's meals are ready to go, so it's time to get packing.
We get to know our clients pretty well, from the initial assessment and from personal knowledge. We know who's allergic to what, who needs cut-up or pureed meals, who needs vegetarian meals, and even who doesn't like Brussels sprouts. This information is usually written on the lid or put on a label stuck onto the lid. Whichever method is used, the end result is we know exactly the meal that the client has ordered. Always put a date on the lid so that if a meal is not eaten, the carer knows which one to throw away. Our lids are date marked and have instructions on storing and reheating the meal. Here we don't put too much information on the lids as we don't want to confuse our clients. We like to serve the food as quickly as we can so that it's as hot or as cold as possible. And then we pop the meals into this insulated container. Done that a few times. Very therapeutic. Always make sure that potentially hazardous foods are kept out of the temperature danger zone as much as possible. So when packing dairy desserts like creams or custard, do a few at a time. I've worked in a number of centres and seen a range of containers. Those big Crusaders. They take me back. And those sweet little tiffin tins. They don't make them like that anymore. But today's plastic and foil containers, they're lighter and easier to stack, and I really appreciate that. When packing food for delivery, keep the cold food together in pre-chilled insulated boxes and the hot food in unchilled insulated boxes. It really helps to pack the meals in order of delivery. In this way, you only have to take out the top one at each stop. This reduces the time the lids are off the boxes, which reduces the time in the temperature danger zone. But how do you know if something's been in the zone for too long?
As it happens, there's something called the 4-hour, 2-hour guide, and here's how it goes. Thanks. If the food has been in the danger zone for less than 2 hours, use immediately or refrigerate it. If it's been in the danger zone between 2 and 4 hours, use it straight away, don't put it back in the fridge. And if it's been in the danger zone for longer than 4 hours, throw it out. For the guide to work, you need to know the total time the potentially hazardous food spent in the temperature danger zone. That is, you need to know the history of the food. Now, let's see how the 4-hour, 2-hour guide worked on this ham salad. It came out of the fridge at 8 a.m, no hanging around on the bench. Following the guide, the ham must be thrown out in 4 hours' time, by midday. There you go. Let's see how we go. By 8:30, the ham is sliced and covered, and back in the cool room. 30 minutes total in the danger zone. It's so important to only take out small amounts of food at a time. 9:30, the sliced ham comes out of the cool room and is packed with a salad. Watch out for bad habits, like touching the inside of container lids with your fingers. This may put bacteria onto the salad. Remember, lids are food contact surfaces. 10 a.m, the containers are put back in the cool room until we need them. 10:30, they're packed into chilled, insulated boxes and loaded into the car. So, how did we go? 30 minutes for slicing, plus 30 minutes for putting into containers, and 30 minutes for packing into boxes. That's only 1.5 hours in the temperature danger zone, not even close to 4 hours. That's not quite the end of it. The guide only works if the food is transported properly.
And in this case, we do that by packing the boxes with ice and keeping the lids on between deliveries. What if we don't transport the meals at a safe temperature? Well, then we have to add our delivery time to our total preparation time. If the last chicken salad isn't delivered for 2 hours, you must add that to the 1.5 hours preparation time, which brings the total to 3.5 hours in the temperature danger zone. Remember, the food must be eaten within 4 hours, so the client must eat the meal within half an hour of delivery. That's a bit close for comfort. The more time we can keep the food under temperature control, the more time our clients will have to eat it safely, especially if they forget to put it in the fridge. So keep those boxes chilled and the lids on. Most of the time there's someone home to receive the meal, and it's great to have a little chat with the client. But what do you do if there's no one home? I've heard some people routinely leave food hanging in a bag from the door handle. Definitely not a good idea. Some only leave food if a chilled, insulated box has been left out. That's a bit safer. The safest method is to have a policy that if there is no one home, no food is left. Okay, so you need to balance the safety of the food with what you know about the client. Mr. Spry! Mr. Spry!
Good morning, Fremantle Meals and Wheels. Helena speaking. Can I help you?
Helena, it's David. I'm at Mr. Spry's and I don't think he's home.
Okay, look, bring the meal back, David. I'll make some inquiries to find out what's happened and then I'll organise something later on.
Fine. I'll see you a little later. Take care. Enough about deliveries. I believe Janet has some really hot fashion tips for us.
Well, dress for comfort. That's my only fashion tip. However, what you wear in the kitchen is an important part of the health and hygiene requirements of the standards. Firstly, you need this indispensable fashion accessory, an apron. This ensures that any dirt you pick up on the way into the kitchen doesn't come into contact with the food. It will also protect your clothes from the inevitable splashes associated with food preparation. Always take your apron off before going to the toilet. You don't want to be flushed with bacteria when you come back into the kitchen. When it comes to hair, you can either tie it back or wear a hat or hairnet. The main thing is to prevent hair falling onto food or onto surfaces where food is prepared. We all know what it's like to get a meal with a strand of hair thrown in at no extra cost. If you choose not to wear a hat, make sure your hair is tied back and away from your face. If you use clips, make sure they fit securely. Personally, I like to wear a hat. It stops me from directly touching my hair and scalp and then spreading bacteria onto the food. It also looks professional. And hats protect your hair from gas burner flames, smells, grease and steam. Just make sure your hair is tucked well away under the hat. No loose strands. Here we all wear hats. Anyone coming into the kitchen can contaminate food, so we have a policy of making the kitchen a hat-only zone. Disposable hats are provided by the door for visitors, volunteers and tradespeople. It's best not to wear jewellery when handling food, especially watches, large ornate rings, bangles, charm bracelets and linked chains. They're great places for bacteria to hide, and you'll spread them around if the jewellery touches anything. They may also prevent you washing your hands and wrists properly. If you need to know the time, just look at the wall clock. If you have a special ring that you never take off, wear a glove over the hand with the ring on it when you need to touch food directly. Keep fingernails short and don't wear nail polish. Well, if you must wear nail polish, then wear gloves. It's all just common sense. Well, that's about it for fashion tips. But I think Greg's got some health advice for us.
Personal health is an important part of hygiene. So, how are you feeling today? If you're feeling a bit under the weather, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about it. But if you do have a touch of the flu, a tummy upset, diarrhea or vomiting, it's best to stay at home and not pass it on. Remember, our clients are very vulnerable. If there's any chance you have contaminated any food, for example by sneezing or coughing, you must let your kitchen supervisor know.
Okay.
You must also let your kitchen supervisor know about any skin conditions that might contaminate food, including open cuts, weeping sores or flaking skin. Many skin conditions can be worked around by wearing gloves or doing things that don't risk contaminating food. Cuts and scratches can be effectively covered with a waterproof Band-Aid. Use brightly coloured ones. They're easier to find if they go missing. And cover the Band-Aid with a glove if you're handling food directly. I feel better now, so much better now. What? Okay, it's back to Janet, who's going to show us how to clean up our act.
Ever noticed how doctors wash their hands at the drop of a hat? They know that our hands collect bacteria from everything we touch and carry and spread bacteria to, well, everything we touch and carry. As part of the food safety standards, each kitchen must have a basin that's only used for hand washing and not any other purpose. The basin must have soap and a single spout tap with warm, running water. Warm water makes the soap work better. You can use bar or liquid soap, but liquid's less messy. You also need a single-use paper towel dispenser or something similar. Don't dry your hands on a shared cloth towel or your apron. They're all great ways to spread bacteria. Now, there's a bit of a technique to doing a good, thorough hand wash. I used to train surgeons, you know. Okay, it's in the handbook. Honestly, you can't get away with anything around here. First, wet your hands under warm, running water. Apply soap to your hands. Rub thoroughly, including your wrists and between your fingers. As I mentioned earlier, you can't wash properly if you're wearing a watch or dripping with jewellery. Rinse your hands in clean water. Finally, thoroughly dry your hands on a single-use towel. You must always wash your hands in this way before handling food. And of course, you must wash your hands after using the toilet, coughing or sneezing, handling rubbish, cleaning, or doing anything that could contaminate your hands. Remember,
Bacteria are everywhere.
exactly. Some people use disposable gloves, and that's fine, but you must change them as often as you would wash your hands. Oh, and wash your hands first, so don't contaminate the gloves as you put them on.
The great thing about these standards is that they are really just common sense. Check the food as it comes in. Cook it thoroughly. Store it properly by keeping hot foods hot and cold foods cold. Keep it covered and don't bring food out until it's needed. And follow a few simple precautions like dress appropriately, wash your hands regularly and avoid touching food with your hands. Are you remembering all this? Don't worry if you're not. It's all in the handbook, and if you're in doubt, just ask your kitchen supervisor. Right, almost there, just a clean up to go. I really recommend putting together a cleaning chart that lists what to clean, when to do it, how to do it, and most importantly, who's doing it. With one of these, you can make sure that everything is cleaned regularly and that no jobs are missed. Janet, could you please do the, you do the washing up? Mm-hmm. David, would you mind starting on the floors and shelves, and I'll do the benches.
Right.
Let's go.
Don't let waste accumulate. It attracts pests like cockroaches, and you don't want them in your kitchen. And keep shelves, equipment, floors, walls and ceilings free from visible grease and dirt.
Keep benches, equipment and utensils that come into contact with food cleaned and sanitised. Now to do that, just follow these 4 simple steps. Step 1. Prepare. Remove loose dirt and food particles. Step 2. Clean. Wash with hot water and detergent, then wipe over or rinse with clean water. Step 3. Sanitise. Apply a chemical sanitiser as directed on the label, or place items into very hot water for about a minute. Step 4. Air dry. Leave the benches, counters and equipment to air dry. Put things away as soon as they're dry. If you need to use something in a hurry, dry with paper towels, not a dirty tea towel. So, what's the difference between cleaning and sanitising? Well, detergents are for cleaning. They remove dirt and grease, but they don't kill bacteria. Sanitisers, also known as disinfectants, they kill bacteria, but they don't remove the grease. So, you need to use them both and in the right order. No, you won't save time by mixing detergents and sanitisers together. It just won't work. You need to remove the grease with the detergent first before the sanitiser can get to the bacteria hiding inside. Always read the directions on sanitisers carefully. Some sanitisers are toxic and must be rinsed off. Others are non-toxic and don't need rinsing. Finally, it's worth taking a look around to make sure that everything's in order. Check the doors closed properly, that fly screens are intact, if any lights need changing, or if any tiles are broken. All this is part of making sure your kitchen is in good condition. Perfect. Well, that's it. Right now, it may seem like a bit much to take in, but the people who have made the changes really think they're great.
Like we said at the beginning, safe food handling is simple and straightforward.
But it is important because it's all to do with something we care very much about. The safety of our clients.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.